they're called racist. But there's nothing racist about trying to protect your values, British values and way of life. It's called patriotism. And that's something that Labour have to recognise. We are not a Muslim country, and those that come here who are Muslim have to recognise that and not try and impose their way of life on others.
And I think reform needs to learn that taking individual crimes by individual Muslim people and then aligning that with the whole of the Muslim community is wrong, reprehensible, and it is racist.
But we don't do that. But we don't. I'm Muslim myself. No, we don't.
Labour MP totally wrecked in a fiery Islam debate by a Reform councillor, according to the clip, after a blunt clash over integration, identity, and what British values even mean. One side argues some Muslim communities expect the country to change, insisting we are not a Muslim country. The other fires back that aligning individual crimes with the whole Muslim community is wrong and racist. And this is where it turns. It will leave you gobsmacked once you clock how the transcript claims each speaker tries to redefine patriotism in real time. This matters because trust and community safety hang on what leaders legitimise. So who actually looked credible?
I don't blame my father or my family for the Muslim rape gangs. That is a particular group of disgusting men.
Absolutely.
And it's got nothing to do, absolutely, but your party looked it over and your party's still trying to cover it up. Yes, they are. They're trying to silence them. So when you have
this government is trying to change the law to allow previous cases that had been turned down to be properly investigated, and thousands of cases are coming forward.
Why was it turned down, Bill? Because your councillors and your MPs and your party looked it over. That's why. And it's only now that you're under public pressure to look it over that you're opening it up again.
I've debated this issue with you before, Layla. Go back to the 2012, 2013, when Keir Starmer, as Director of Public Prosecutions, was one of the first people to grip this issue and say there's a real problem with grooming gangs and we need to overturn the law.
He wasn't part of the Labour Party then, and 250,000 girls were groomed and tortured in Labour constituencies, and your councillors and your MPs looked it over, look the other way to protect their votes.
True.
So when the public see that we have a political party that is pandering to a Muslim vote.
Now, I'm going to be careful with language, because you can criticise policies and failures without smearing ordinary people. But what you just heard is the heart of the public anger, the feeling that there are two rule books. One for the proved opinions, and one for everyone else who's told to sit down and be quiet. And notice the tactic. The moment the councillor presses on grooming gangs and Sharia courts, the Labour MP goes straight to "that's racist and reprehensible." It's meant to end the conversation, not answer it. That word becomes a mute button. And once the public clocks that pattern, it stops working. Also clock the receipts that get thrown around in the exchange. 250,000 girls is mentioned, and there's a direct accusation that officials looked the other way. Those are huge claims. If they're true, it's a national disgrace. If they're false, they still show you how toxic and distrustful the atmosphere has become. Either way, the public deserves clarity, not slogans. What winds people up is the sense that even asking the question makes you the villain. That's backwards. In a normal country, you can demand accountability, you can demand prosecutions, you can demand an honest threat assessment, and you don't get smeared for it. Now watch where this goes next, because the argument swings into terror threats and the Prevent programme, and this is where the Labour MP tries to hide behind a spreadsheet while the councillor keeps dragging it back to lived reality. Pay attention to how quickly it escalates.
Debating whether it's a criminal offence to criticise Islam, allowing Sharia courts to flourish, and then overlooking Muslim rape gangs. And then we have a prevent system that is actually chasing far-right, so-called far-right fantasy crimes and denying
the biggest number of referrals to the prevent programme are on the far right.
Well, that is a problem because we have had no terrorist attacks in this country from the so-called far right. We have had it from Islamic terrorists.
What about the guy who murdered Joe Cox? What about the man that murdered Joe Cox?
Listen, I'm not overlooking that. It was a terrible thing.
You just overlooked it.
No,
you just said there's no evidence of far-right extremism. And there was a far-right extremist who murdered a Labour MP.
Relax.
Yeah, I'm not relaxing because I get very angry when you disgracefully misrepresent the picture.
Are you saying?
Right. That bit matters because it shows two completely different ways of seeing the country. The Labour MP leans on referral numbers and says both threats matter. The councillor hears that and says, basically, you've lost your grip on proportion, and she brings up major attacks and networks operating across the UK, according to the transcript. You can feel the public frustration in that clash. People don't want a lecture. They want a government that prioritizes the safety of its citizens and actually tells the truth about what it's facing. And this is where the establishment always trips over itself. It can't just say, yes, failures happened, yes, prosecutions were missed, yes, certain institutions were timid, yes, we're fixing it, full stop. Instead you get deflection, moral scolding, and a weird obsession with controlling language. That's not leadership. That's brand protection. Also, the Joe Cox reference is a reminder of something important. You can acknowledge more than one threat without turning it into a competition. But the minute politicians start playing balance games to avoid offending activists, the public hears evasion. People can handle nuance. What they can't stand is the sense that officials are more frightened of headlines than they are of criminals. Now, near the end of the transcript, the narrator lays out what many viewers were thinking, that Labour's answers sounded like denial and distraction, while the other side came armed with claims, figures, and blunt accusations. Have a listen to how it's framed, and note the phrases about what millions across the country already believe.
That far-right terrorism is a bigger danger to this country than Islamic terrorism. Is that what you're saying?
I think they're both a threat and a danger to this country.
Do you think they're an equal threat?
And I actually think...
Wow. So you're comparing one horrific death to July 7th, the bridge. You're comparing that to one death. We have ISIS. We have so many Islamic terrorists. We have the Muslim Brotherhood that has infiltrated this country through the boat. And you are saying that Prevent should focus on far-right extremism.
No,
you have lost the plot, mate. You've lost the plot, Bill.
I'm talking about the referrals by the agencies to the Prevent programme, and the majority, or the biggest number, are on the far right. I actually think... Hold on.
Defunct. Prevent has no use.
You've got to stop interrupting.
I'm interrupting the Perrier. I'm going to the White House. Goodbye.
And there it is. The reason these exchanges go viral is because they tap into a deeper feeling that the people in charge don't speak like they're accountable to you. They speak like they're managing you. When the transcript says the councillor came prepared with hard evidence and points to 250,000 girls, that's a serious allegation, and it demands serious, transparent answers. Not labels. Not studio theatrics. Not a pivot to referral charts. What should happen next in a healthy democracy is simple. If cases were ignored, reopen them. If institutions failed victims, name the failures and fix the process. If extremists are exploiting loopholes, close them. If community relations are being poisoned, tell the truth and enforce one standard of law for everyone. That's not anti-anyone. That's pro-citizen. And from an America First angle, because I know plenty of you watching feel this in your bones, it's the same story across the West. Elites try to shame ordinary people into silence, then act shocked when trust evaporates and outsiders surge. You don't fix that by lecturing the public. You fix it by putting your own house in order, backing law enforcement properly, and refusing to let ideology override public safety. Britain doesn't need more word games. It needs honesty, equal justice, and leaders who put the country first. If Labour can't answer hard questions without reaching for a smear, voters will keep walking, and they won't be coming back.